This is a beginner's tutorial to help you get started quickly with your ZMK powered keyboard. Disclaimer, I'm not an expert, but this is how I made it work for me. And if you see any better ways of doing something, please let me know in the comments. I would love to hear it.
Side note to ZMK Studio. ZMK Studio is a more user-friendly interface to program your ZMK keyboard. You can make basic changes like assigning different keys, and you can assign predefined or custom behaviors. However, you cannot use ZMK Studio to configure custom behaviors yet. It is planned.
Until then, follow this tutorial.
Side note 2.
Installing ZMK.
As it is written in the guide online.
This is one of the hurdles that stopped me from starting immediately. But luckily, chances are you don't need to install ZMK at all.
You need to install ZMK if you want to work on your layout locally on your computer, you are building your own keyboard and firmware, or you bought a keyboard from a vendor that does not provide you with a GitHub repository. For this tutorial, we will utilize the GitHub repository provided by a vendor. I will be using my Pianto Pro BT from Keyboard here as the example. It should work similarly for keyboards from other vendors like Typeractive or Beekeep. The first thing you need is a GitHub account. GitHub is where your layout will be created and saved online. Go to github.com and sign up. And this is how your own personal GitHub dashboard looks like. Keep the window open, we'll come back to it. Next is to copy the repository provided by the vendor of your keyboard into your own GitHub repository, which is kind of like a folder. You click on the green button that says code, then you go to the URL and copy to clipboard. Now you can go to your own GitHub repository and click on import repository. Then you copy the URL of your vendor's GitHub repository into this field. And then give your repository a name. Decide if you want it to be public or private. And click begin import. And this is how your own copy of your ZMK firmware looks like. One more thing we need to do is to go to the Action tab. And then here click on Enable Actions on this repository. Keymap Editor is a graphical interface that allows you to customize your keyboard layout. Otherwise, you have to edit it in the config file, which is a text editor. Go to the URL shown on the bottom of the screen to access Keymap Editor. Then connect your GitHub account to the Keymap Editor. Log in with your GitHub account. Authorize Keymap Editor. You're supposed to click on only select repositories, which I didn't do, but don't worry, we'll fix that. Because I selected all repositories, the app is being disabled. So we click on fix repository selection, and then we click only select repositories. Then select the repository that we just created. Log in again. Beekeep provides the firmware of two different models, the Corn Pro as well as the Pianto Pro, so I'm going to select mine, which is the Pianto Pro. And with this, you are now all set to start creating your custom keyboard layouts. In this tutorial, I will showcase one standard and 3 custom behaviors that I use every day on my layout. Those are layer switch, tap dance, hold, and Homerow Mods. Layer switch or layer tap. This is the simplest one. I just use the behavior that is already predefined by ZMK. The layer tap behavior enables a layer when a key is held and outputs a key press when the key is only tapped for a short time. I use this for most of my layers. To implement that, let's go to Keymap Editor. Let's say I want to use my right middle thumb to activate my third layer, which is all my special characters as well as the arrows. For that, I click on the middle right button, and then for behavior, I will scroll down and search for layer tap. And then I'll enter the parameters. For the layer, I'm selecting layer 3, and for the key code, which is the tap, I'm looking for space. Hit OK, and here we go. This is how you implement layer tap. Double tap, or as it is called in ZMK, tap dance. This is for when I press the key twice in sequence. It produces a different key. I used it, for example, on the comma key. It is a comma when tapped once and a semicolon when tapped twice. I also have it for period and colon, dash and underscore, question mark and exclamation mark, and single quote and double quote. To implement tap dance, go to your Keymap Editor, click on behavior and add new behavior. From the drop-down menu, select tap dance behavior and click create. Give the behavior a name. I call mine underscore double tap. Why so specific, you might wonder? We'll get to that in a bit. You click add binding and then click on the key. For the behavior, we're selecting key press. And then we add the key code, which in my case is the minus. Click OK. Then we add another binding, which is for the double tap. Click on the key. For behavior, we select again key press. And then for the key code, in my case, I want an underscore. Click OK. For the tapping turns, I left it at the default of 200 milliseconds. Click OK again. And this is how you define a double tap. I gave this behavior such a specific name because there's something odd about tap dance. You need to define a custom behavior for every key pair. But this is quite easily done by copying one of the existing tap dance behaviors and changing the keys. Give your new behavior a new name. For example, double tap exclamation. Then you change the keys again. Repeat this for as many times you want to have the double tap behavior, and then you will end up with a bunch of behaviors like mine. I have one for semicolon, double quote, underscore, and exclamation. Hold. This is when you press a key for a long time, it produces another key. I personally use these for keyboard shortcuts, such as holding C becomes Command C to copy. V, when held long, becomes Command V for paste. T becomes Command T for new tab, and so on. There is a pre-programmed behavior called mod tap, but this didn't work for me because it has a different flavor. Yes, flavor. The pre-programmed hold tap is hold preferred, which means when I want to type, for example, tool quickly, the hold preferred can lead to the keystroke T being interpreted as a long hold, and as a result, it would open a new tab. This is why for the custom behavior, which I call long press, I choose the flavor tap preferred. All the flavors are very well described in the documentation, even though I usually have to read them multiple times to fully understand the nuanced differences between them. To implement the long press behavior, go to your Keymap Editor, click New Behavior, select Hold or Tap behavior, give it a name, I call it long press. Then go to the first value and select key press and the second one is also a key press. Then the tapping terms, I initially had 400, but after a bit of trial and error, I changed it to 350 later on. For the flavor, we're choosing tap preferred. Hit OK, and there we have it, our long press behavior. Now let's dive into the custom behavior that completely changed my typing game. It also makes it really difficult for me now to type on keyboards that are mine. I'm talking about Homerow Mods. Homerow Mods are keyboard modifications that place common modifier keys like Ctrl, Alt, or Command for Mac under your Homerow fingers. This reduces finger movement, making typing more efficient and comfortable. It is basically a more sophisticated version of the long press behavior. While I don't use Command, Option, and Control that often while typing, I do use the Shift keys a lot. This is why I have them under my index fingers, which is a lot more convenient than reaching for them with my poor, weak pinky fingers. For the Homerow mods, we will distinguish between the left and the right hand. And I also personally distinguish between Shift and the other modifiers, which you will see why in a moment. Let's start by creating the right hand Homerow mod first. First, open the Keymap Editor and click on New Behavior. Select Hold or Tap Behavior. Under the Bind section, give it a name. I'm naming mine HM Shift R for Homerow Shift Right. For the values, select Key Press. And then for the second value, also Key Press. For the tapping terms, I use the default of 200 milliseconds. Now select Hold Preferred as the flavor. The reason we are using Hold Preferred for Shift here is because I want Shift to activate more readily since I use it so frequently. Hold Preferred flavors triggers the hold behavior when another key is pressed, and this is exactly what I want for Shift. I want the hold to be triggered when I hit another key, but only a key from the other hand, which is why we have to check the following boxes. Hold while undecided, hold trigger key positions, and hold trigger on release. For hold trigger key positions, we need to click and drag to select multiple keys on the opposite hand. Since this is for the right hand, we will select the left keyboard half. Let me quickly explain what these behaviors do when they work together. Holding trigger key positions is where the magic happens. When you press the Homerow key together with a key from the opposite hand, the hold action triggers immediately on release, even if held shorter than the tapping term. But when pressed with a key within the same hand, the tap action is preserved. Hold trigger on release defers the decision between tap or hold until you release the Homerow key. This ensures that tap versus hold decisions occur only once. Hold while undecided suppresses both tap and hold outputs while you hold the Homerow key and before releasing. This prevents any key codes from being sent until the final tap or hold decision occurs on release. While recording this tutorial, I realized that hold while undecided might be redundant, but so far it hasn't hurt either. So save this behavior, and now we will create the left side. For the left side Homerow mods, we'll copy HM Shift R, change the name to HM Shift L for left, then in the hold trigger key positions, hold Shift and drag to deselect the current selection and change it to the other keyboard half. Save this behavior. Now for the other modifiers, we need to make a small little change. Copy HM Shift R and rename it HMR for Homerow Right. This time, change the flavor from Hold Preferred to Tap Preferred. Tap Preferred means a quick tap sends the normal key code, while holding longer than the tapping term, which I set as 200 milliseconds, registers the hold action as a modifier. Do the same for the left side. Copy HM-Shift-L, rename it to HML, then change to tab preferred. There you go. We have now defined all of the custom behaviors that I use every single day.
With these custom behaviors, everything now works as I want most of the time. These are the settings that make sense to me and work for my typing style. You may need to adjust them based on your preference or typing habits.
I found that ZMK can be a bit overwhelming when you first look into it. What helped me was the support of AI to help me explain and fully understand the nuances of all of these flavors and behaviors. So if you just don't get it, ask AI. Now we can assign all of these behaviors to the keys. So for this first key, I'm going to assign it a double tap underscore behavior. Now you repeat this for all of the other double tap behaviors. And now we move on to the long press behaviors. This T becomes a long press. And this R also becomes a long press. And we continue and so on with all the letters that you want to have a long press behavior. Let's move on to assigning our Homerow mods, starting with the left shift. Select the behavior called HM-Shift-L. Select the key for hold, which is left shift. And then for tap, which is F. Continuing with the other modifiers, for D we want the behavior HML, and then for hold we want command, and D for tap. Next we move on to the option modifier. For behavior we select again HML, and then we want the left alt or left option in my case. And the key code is an S for tapping. Then the last one on the left side is HML again, and the key code is left control, and the letter for tapping is A. Now repeat this for the right side Homerow mods, and there you get it. Now we can continue and hit save. You can commit keyboard changes by writing a comment on what you did. Here I'm going to write what I've done. It takes a bit of time to process, but you can look at the status by clicking on the blue button, where you can see that 0 out of 8 jobs are completed. Dun, 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 ding. Okay, this is how it looks when the job is completed. Now go back to Keymap Editor and you can click on the blue button again, where you can download your firmware. Now we can prepare your keyboard for flashing a new firmware. Connect one half of the keyboard with your computer. Then reset your keyboard. In my case, I need to use the SIM tray tool and double click it. And now your keyboard half should pop up as a drive. I would suggest to make a backup of the current firmware just in case something goes wrong. Unzip your firmware. Go into the folder. Now you see you have two sets of firmware, one for your left keyboard, one for your right keyboard. Select the firmware for the individual halves respectively and drag and drop it into your keyboard. Sometimes it happened to me that the copy fails. Not a big deal, just do it again. And it is normal that once the firmware is completely transferred, the keyboard is ejected and you might get a warning message about not disconnecting properly. Repeat the same procedure for the other half, making sure that you copy the right side for the right keyboard, and then here we go. You're done. There's no need to restart your keyboard, you can just start typing.
I hope this tutorial helps you faster to get started with your keyboards. Happy typing, thanks for watching, and see you next time.